Even though this election year is not likely to work out great for Democrats, liberals can take heart that at least the White House seems finally to be giving up on that whole self-defeating unilateral disarmament bipartisan thing. The Republicans were never going to go along with anything from this White House. The White House seems maybe to have figured that out now. And the president and the vice president and the Democrats more broadly seem willing to finally call Republicans out now, to make John Boehner famous, to draw a clear distinction between the parties in this last 8 weeks lead up to the election. And that makes it all the more weird that President Obama and Vice President Biden have both gone way out of their way recently to say nice things about George W. Bush. The first time was in the president's speech about the end of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
This afternoon, I spoke to former President George W. Bush. It's well known that he and I disagreed about the war from its outset. Yet no one can doubt President Bush's support for our troops or his love of country and commitment to our security.
His commitment to our security. You know, I get the style points here. I get the presidential magnanimity, the let's turn the page, you seem like a nice enough guy. But if there's one thing that disproves someone being committed to American security, it's got to be that person starting a war that had nothing to do with American security. That's the big American lesson of the Iraq War. Don't be so reckless with America's security that you start wars without a reason to. That was the first strange props to George Bush moment of the last couple of weeks. Then last night, there was this from the vice president on the Colbert Report.
Now let's talk about President Bush for a second. The administration has got some critique, some criticism from me and my conservative friends that you have not given enough credit to President Bush. Would you like to take this opportunity right now to look over there and say, thank you?
Mr. President, thank you. You've honored these guys, you've honored these women, you've honored these troops, and I've known you your entire 8 years as president. I've never known a time when you didn't care about what happened. We disagreed on policy, but you deserve a lot of credit, Mr. President.
Again, points for stylistic magnanimity, I guess? I don't mean to spoil the love here, but President Bush threatened to veto the GI Bill. President Bush wouldn't allow there to be photos or media coverage of fallen soldiers' caskets coming home from that war. When soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan needed more body armor, he and the Pentagon couldn't spare the change. Because at $260 a soldier, it was spare change to provide it for them. Troops' families, for years, bought body armor for themselves. Remember the soldier who challenged George W. Bush's defense secretary about why they were having to make homemade armor for their Humvees in Iraq?
As you know, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you might want or wish to have at a later time.
In other words, get over it. We wanted to start this war, and if you guys didn't have the equipment you needed to be able to fight it, whatever. As I said, I think I understand these style points on making nice overtures to the previous president, but thanking Bush for being awesome to the troops, for caring about national security when you're talking about a war he started despite national security, it's inexplicable, and it's whitewash, and it's weird.